Hello, my name is Eden. I'm attending Full Sail University, the Master of Fine Arts program online. The three things I like to reflect on for this course: one, naming conventions or branding; two, color; three, research. Research was a real doozy for this course. So I'll start with naming conventions or branding. You have a creative idea that's in this energetic space, and when you name it, you bring it from this creative, energetic phase and give it coordinates in the 3D reality. So you're actually performing an act of creation. It takes the creative aspiration, the creative notion, the idea, the concept, and it takes it from an energetic, non-physical realm, and it puts it here in our reality. It creates something that we can interact with physically, and it creates something that other people that are not in our mind can also interact with. The conceptual wavelength coalesces and kind of downloads with that name into physical reality. Once you give it a point, an access point. Color. For me, color is everything. Um, I'm kind of just I just got overwhelmed, so I don't know where to start with color. Color is so important because what a lot of people don't realize is that color actually conditions the optic nerve. And we experience a huge part of our emotional temperament, our energetic temperament from what we take in through our eyes. So if we're in an environment and the colors are wrong, the lighting is wrong because color is an effect of light, um, then it changes everything. Equally, if you have the colors wrong in a project that you're giving to a client, it can it can literally shut down the client or it can shut down the project. Afro Sheen um, comparative case study that I did in an essay comparative to Margot Chase's case study of the Chinese laundry brand. Afro Sheen changed its neutral colors, all neutral colors, the black, the brown, and the gold colors to purple, a very saturated purple, and a lot of symbology. If I were doing a project for maybe an athletics company, a lot of people, the first thing they say is, oh, red, 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 red. Red is not really an energetic color. Okay, red has a very long wavelength. The reason why red is so often regarded as such a strong matter because red has an adverse effect on human physiology to a certain point. Okay, so when I say adverse, it kind of has a double meaning because red is because its wavelength is so long, it's one of the few areas of the wavelength that actually penetrates through the skin. And the body has a reaction to that. It's also a reactive color. Um, but the colors for energy are blue and yellow. Yellow is a very emotional color. You think of blue is a very exciting color. That's why you hear all this stuff about the blue light, blue blockers. so on and so forth. Blue actually energizes, and that's because, just look at the science. Blue light has a very short wavelength, means it's going like this, whereas the red light has a very long wavelength, means it's doing this. Okay, so if you're trying to speak to or get the attention of athletes, you want to use the optic nerve, the thing that's conditioning their decisions, conditioning their energetic state, and using colors that connect, like blue and yellow, because they're energetic colors. But colors can be tactical. That's basically the point of what I was trying to say. So I really enjoyed seeing the way Margot Chase just pretty much colorized the branding for Chinese laundry from just a very minimalistic design into this dazzling, multi-layered brand vision, which was remarkable. I'm trying to think of how to start this, because I think when I first started this course, and was it the first week or was it the second week? I can't remember off the top of my head right now. But when I first saw the logo, the branding, Chinese laundry, I had this visceral reaction, because Chinese laundry is a legendary, vulgar, racist stereotype of Chinese Americans and Asian Americans, all the way from the 1800s up to maybe the 1970s is when it was last used the most. And the reason why it's so racist and that stereotype has been so abused is because in the 1800s there was so much xenophobia against the Chinese immigrants that were coming to the Americas, Caribbean, South America, Brazil, but in America, that they couldn't get hired to do any other jobs except laundries. But it's the same as if I had come as if I had came to a class and the market research, the case study was on this branding called Chicken and Watermelon. It could have been a culinary company, could have been a restaurant, but in the human ethology of the Americas, chicken and watermelon means something very specific. To crest that, when I did my deep research into Chinese laundry is not even an Asian-owned company. When you look at the target group of Chinese laundry, it's very specific. Okay, a lot of people think that women's fashions, all the brands just target all women, and that's that. But as Margot Chase was very eloquent in pointing out, that she was a specific type of woman with a specific type of fashion sense, and that she had to be sure that when she was creating the persona for Chinese laundry, that she created the persona that was intended for a Chinese laundry target consumer. Okay, so going all the way back to research, what I kind of learned from that was research is very important for making sure the client meets your needs, because I can imagine that if I had been contacted by Chinese laundry, which I'd never heard of before this course. They said, hey, we would like to contract you to do a marketing campaign for our company called Chinese Laundry. I mean, I would have immediately known that that was a racist word chain, and I would have declined that project. So the fact that Margot Chase actually accepted that project and just had it seemed like she had no grasp on that term, that was also telling. So that's one thing in review that I've taken away from the mastery course and defining client needs is always research who's being centered as the example of excellence, who's being held up as the expert on a given topic. Because in the mastery course, Robert Greene interacts with a lot of right-wing quote-unquote pundits that have very problematic positions against LGBTQ communities and women, I guess, feminism, or I could just say they're chauvinists. They proudly profess chauvinist views. And another thing about the mastery, I hate to throw this in there, is that the videos we saw of Robert Greene were of Robert Greene in his prime, in all his glory, okay? But when you do the research on Robert Greene, you find that Robert Greene suffered a stroke. And in later interviews, when asked about his actual works, he had changed some of his views because he had changed. So I do think that researching coursework while you're in a program is also just as telling as, in this instance, doing research on research. But I also want to highlight the course by Sean Adams. I think it's Owning Your Own Design Firm. It's on LinkedIn Learning. In one of those modules, he went through this very competent, very well laid out process of how you get a client, you want to make a brief, and you want to start building that brief out and putting all the information based on your planning, your project metrics in this brief. And the reason why that was refreshing, because that's something that I do. I have like this hanging folder, like maybe 7 slots. And whenever I start a project, just as information comes in, as ideas are expanded, I just start putting things in their different categories. And then somewhere towards the end of the project, when I'm finalizing the project, I pull out all this different paperwork, or the paperwork that's not already under review, and I just start, I guess, going line by line with the ruler and seeing, yeah, that was something we looked at the beginning, not so important now, or wow, that's something that totally got sidelined. A good project, a powerful project, is like having an affair. You know, it has a beginning, middle, like all affairs, most affairs, the plurality of affairs, it ends.